Hi, it's Kathryn Berg, a certified classical homeopath with over 20 years of experience. Welcome to the Holistic Health Guide podcast, where we talk about homeopathy, stem cell activation patches, the Enneagram, and all things natural to help you be healthier and happier. We are officially past the summer solstice, so today we are going to talk about homeopathic tips for a safe and fun summer. There's nothing worse than having a vacation or just a nice summer weekend ruined by events that occur in the summer, such as poison ivy or bad insect bites or just too much sun. At the end of the podcast, I'll be sharing a remedy that could definitely save your summer and possibly even save a life. So stay with us to learn how to get a little insurance that it'll be a great summer. Have you ever wondered how your favorite holistic health practices really work? Are you curious to learn more? Welcome to Holistic Health Guide. I'm Kathryn Berg, a classical homeopath with over 20 years of experience. Join us as we explore homeopathy, stem cell activation patches, the Enneagram, and much more. Let's dive in and uncover the secrets and tips behind your favorite holistic health modalities. Are you allergic to poison ivy? The single most popular blog post I have ever written is one on tips for poison ivy. I share a lot of blog post links, but this one has had the most clicks. Are you allergic to poison ivy? I do not know if I am, but I definitely don't want to get a reaction to poison ivy just to see if I am. If you accidentally touch some leaves, don't distress. Homeopathy rapidly relieves and heals poison ivy. But how do you know what it looks like? Take a look at this photo if you're watching this on video. And the phrase leaves of three, let it be, is good advice. The leaves are smooth on the edges, not on the plant in the photo with the jagged edges, and they appear in groups of three. If you aren't sure and you happen to have an iPhone, just take a photo of the plant in question. Then go to Photos and select your photo and drag the photo upward slightly, and you'll get a screen that will tell you to look up plant, or you will get a screen with the information. Again, those of you watching this podcast can see how this works. I grew up on a farm right by a lake, and we played often in the grass and the weeds and the trees, and I never had poison ivy. My mother insisted that we didn't have any, and knowing what I know about poison ivy being nature's Band-Aid, I'm not surprised to hear this. If you would like to know more about poison ivy being nature's Band-Aid, and some remedy suggestions on how to help resolve the symptoms and heal more quickly, keep listening. So why is poison ivy considered nature's Band-Aid? The reason is that it tends to grow where the earth has been scraped. Behind my house is a paved trail, and on the other side of that trail is parkland. Along the edge of the parkland is poison ivy. A couple years ago, the city came and dug it up with a big scraper, and guess what? 2 years later, it was worse than ever. Nature's Band-Aid indeed. It keeps us out of forested parkland, and it prevents people from trampling on the cuts caused by the scrapers that moved the earth. What's more, a plant called jewelweed is now growing in abundance. Before they scraped out the poison ivy, there was nothing of the sort growing around where it. Mother Nature is amazing, and she will provide relief nearby if there is a problematic plant, such as poison ivy. Jewelweed is a solution for poison ivy. Yes, homeopathy can rapidly relieve and heal poison ivy. The best way to prevent an allergic reaction to poison ivy is to recognize it. If you are listening to this, be sure to look it up online so you can recognize it. But sometimes touching poison ivy is unavoidable. For example, if your pet rolls in it and rubs up against you, you may then respond to the urushiol oil in the leaves, especially if you're particularly sensitive to poison ivy or poison. Here are some naturopathic suggestions for managing a poison ivy outbreak. If you think you are having a systemic reaction, which has gotten into the bloodstream, well, that's not how it spreads. It spreads by scratching and getting the oils on your skin. If you keep getting new outbreaks, you are probably getting pet. So you have to give your pet bath. Washing with Fels naphtha soap in the shower is the best solution. Not taking a baking soda or oatmeal bath until you are certain all the oils have been washed off. According to the Mayo Clinic, you should be sure to get all the oils off your skin before bathing. Aloe vera gel can also be helpful for taming the inflammation from poison ivy and sunburn too, by the way. One of the worst reactions to poison ivy is when someone digs it up, lets it dry, and then burns it. It can be serious at least and fatal at worst for highly sensitive individuals. Interestingly, homeopathic poison oak or rust tox is an asthma remedy, so there is a connection there. Be sure you seek medical care if this happens to you. In addition to the naturopathic suggestions above gave you, poison ivy and poison oak reaction can be helped by homeopathy. Before you run out and purchase homeopathic rust tox, for those of you who are familiar with it, please note the following. Wait until symptoms have developed clearly to start taking a homeopathic. Like any acute dis-ease, giving a remedy too quickly can obscure the picture and make it difficult to find the correct remedy to move the dis-ease along in a rapid fashion. If you have listened to episode 1 of this podcast, you will know that choosing a remedy based on diagnosis is not as likely to result in the most helpful remedy. You may still have to go through all the phases of poison ivy, but you should experience less discomfort, and it should take less time than normal, much less. Normal is about 10 days to 2 weeks long. And if you are super sensitive to poison ivy, please contact us at lotushomeopathy.com to get some homeoprophylaxis for poison ivy to help prevent or lessen allergic reactions. Where your breakouts are located can also help determine which remedy will be effective. I know that seems odd, but for each remedy has an affinity for particular parts of the body. And so if you have an ivy that's close to your eyes, for example, it could be a different remedy. To use some important remedies for poison ivy. The first one we're going to talk about is one called anacardium orientale. And this remedy is poison sumac and is a close relative of rust tox. They have similar symptoms. The remedy is better from scalding hot water. Rust tox is better from hot water, but anacardium is better from scalding hot water. And better from rubbing, not scratching, and eating, which tends to be true with anacardium in general. And our remedy that we're going to talk about is rust tox, toxicodendron, the pretty commonly known remedy. It's a homeopathic poison oak or poison ivy. Everyone needs it when they get poison ivy. Restless and nervous from itching, and they are also better from heat, such as a hot bath or a hot shower, or the heat of the bed. If you do not know if you are better from heat, take a hot shower or put a hot compress on the affected area. Be sure to look for the link in the show notes on a blog post about poison ivy so you can learn some more symptoms on how to distinguish between anacardium and rust tox because they are very similar. Next remedy we're going to talk about is Apis mellifica, or Apis. This remedy is made from worker bees, and it is quite the opposite of anacardium and rust tox in terms of the symptoms you would want to see in order to give this remedy. It's worse from heat, like sulfur, with a great deal of swelling and heat in the location of the breakout. It's better from cold or ice. A cold shower or an ice pack provides relief. Another important poison ivy remedy is called Cantharis vesicatoria, and there are tiny vesicles with fierce, nearly intolerable burning and itching. This is much like the burning associated with a UTI, which isn't a surprise because Cantharis is another remedy. So two remedies are very different, and you'll be able to distinguish between them and there's two pretty easily. Our next remedy is sulfur, and sulfur is intensely itchy and burning, as with all things sulfur. Homeopathic sulfur states in general are prone to getting a secondary infection, and this is true with poison ivy as well. The rash is dark red in general, and there are vesicles, blisters, and pustules, which is a discharge that is not clear. And the rash will be moist. Some of you might decide you're going to just survive and do some naturopathic things, poison ivy, but get an infection. Deciding to switch over to sulfur. Remedy that we're going to talk about is graphites. And graphites is most useful in the later stages of a poison ivy break. And there might be a thick honey-like discharge from the rash. Sure, you look in the show notes for a link to the blog post to get more symptoms to help you choose. There are many more symptoms that might help you distinguish between these most common poison ivy remedies. Before we get to remedies for insect bites, which is our next topic, I want to point out that the most important thing to remember, again, is that prevention is the best cure for problems arising from insect bite. If you're hiking, long socks hold up over long pants to prevent ticks from crawling up your legs, wear a hat and a lightweight long sleeve shirt. The picture that you see, if you're watching this to the left, is me hiking in the rain. Be careful to not use fragrance before going out. Essential oils should be those that repel insects and not attract them. Insect repellent, of course, is important, but be sure to check the toxicity levels of what you're using. For your own backyard, there's a fabulous product called Mosquito Barrier that is completely non-toxic. And you can use the garden hose with a spray applicator to apply it to your yard periodically. What's it made of? Pure garlic. You can find it at mosquitobarrier.com. This is not an advertisement. Let's move on now to remedies for insect bites. And some of these will be familiar to you from the section on poison ivy. And this is in keeping with episode 1 in season 1, where we discussed that a diagnosis doesn't indicate what remedy you should have. And also, common remedies may have many potential uses. We call them polycrests in homeopathy, and they are common because they have so many uses. Our first remedy is apis, which is for bee stings or other insect bites which itch, sting, are burning hot, or at least warm. They're worse from heat and better from cold application. This could be used for a sudden, unknown allergic reaction to bee sting. But there could be a better choice, and we'll get to that later. Rust tox is our next remedy, and it has eruptions which have vesicle, very large red hive, very itchy with burning and tingling, which makes the person experiencing it very restless and nervous. Better scalding hot water, worse from cold water. So you can see the difference between the two. My son had reaction to nuts. Allergic to, because he was allergic to everything. But he had never had anything but almonds, evidently. And when he had those, he was fine. It was New Year's Eve, and he was in kindergarten, so he's pretty young. We were at a friend's house across town. As we were driving home, I heard this cough that sounded like a croupy cough, and I thought to myself, how he had gotten over this croupy cough. And I determined that I would give him the remedy that had helped at least a year prior. Him the remedy and sending him to bed, he came to our room and said, "Mommy, I'm just so itchy." And he pulled down his jammy pants and his legs were covered with eyes. Not knowing which remedy to give, but being able to narrow it down, I got 2 wash rags, one with cold water and one with warm water. I put one on each leg and I asked him which helped more. And he said the warm one. So I gave him a 200 C dose of rust tox. Within 10 minutes, his itching and hives went away. And so did the cough. He had gotten a cookie at the party and it had nuts in it, unbeknownst to my husband, who told him he could have it. He had EpiPens from his doctor after that. But the rust tox did continue to help him if he accidentally got some nuts for a very long time. Our next remedy for insect bites is Ledum, and this remedy is good for any bite or puncture wound, especially if the injured part is cold. Insect bites that feel cold and better from cold, worse from having the bite covered or made warm. Chilly, worse from worse, better from cold applications and worse. Point out that that is very strange to be cold and better from. So keep that in mind, and that would be a distinction between Apis and Ledum, is that this has warm bite. They may have hot, hard swelling with tearing pains, better from cold applications and rest. Also, use it in a high potency after tick bites to ward off potential after effects of the ticks. Be sure to look in the show notes for a link to the blog post that talks about tick bites in particular. Living in Minnesota, it is fairly easy to develop Lyme disease. And so that's true in other states as well, especially on the East Coast. So this is an important blog for you to go. The next remedy we're going to talk about for insect bites is Urtica urens. And this remedy is made from stinging nettle. So if you have ever had the experience of rubbing up against a stinging nettle plant, you'll know exactly what this is like. It is also for stings of jellyfish or medusa. And funnily enough, it also works for the effects of stinging nettles. Urtica caused by allergic reactions to insect bites. And it produces a burning, prickling, and itching type of pain, better from constant rubbing. It could also be violent itching with a constant desire for rubbing. And it could be on the scalp, the hands, the fingers, white and raised wheals with a red areola or circle around it. And it's worse heat and hot bathing, exertion, eating seafood. And it's better lying down and rubbing. So you can see some distinctions here that this is worse from heat, just like Apis. So there might be a distinction you need to make between choosing Apis or Urtica urens. Thank you for watching and or listening to our podcast on homeopathic tips for a safe and fun summer. Well, we did talk about what to do about poison ivy and insect bites, what we haven't had time to cover is what to do for solar overload. What should you do, homeopathically speaking, if you get too much sun? And this could be sunstroke or heat exhaustion or sunburn. Once again, prevention is the best cure. But let's be honest. Sometimes no matter how hard we try, we don't get the result we think we should for all our preventive efforts. I remember doing some landscaping with my husband on a warm or hot summer day, and we drank plenty, replenished the electrolytes, but still, my husband suffered from the effects of solar overload. I managed to take care of it with a homeopathic remedy, but what if I hadn't known what to do? At a minimum, our evening plans would have been scrapped. Tickets to a concert were in order for that evening. At worst, he would have suffered sunstroke. What remedies are helpful for too much sun could actually save a life. Believe it or not, homeopathy does save lives. Minnesota Vikings player Corey Stringer died from too much sun. He did go to a hospital, but what if his trainers had had a homeopathic remedy kit on the sidelines and actually knew how to use it? It could have been a better ending for all involved, especially Mr. Stringer. By the way, I do not know what remedy he needed, as symptoms were sparse in the news report. And as you know from episode 1, we don't prescribe based on diagnosis. To do in these situations of solar overload, go to www.toomuchsun.net, one word, too much sun, and download a paid training session on what remedies to use for sunburn, heat exhaustion, and sunstroke. It includes a video and a printable document. The cost is a small price to pay to potentially save a vacation or save a life. That's www.toomuchsun.net to get your course in homeopathic remedies for solar overload. Now, finally, that last remedy. Our last remedy isn't common, but it could save your summer or your vacation if you know about it, how to use it, and have it on hand. You can find it wherever you get your homeopathic remedies or on that big river store. And finally, I promised that we will discuss related to stings or bites from insects is one that will be incredibly helpful for those who really need it. It is homeopathic carbolic acid, also called phenol. It was used as one of the first antiseptics by Joseph Lister as a way to sterilize medical equipment for cleaning wounds. It is a compound containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. All acids have hydrogen in them, by the way. It is not a carboxylic acid. It is more of a weak alcohol. As a material dose, it does have some safety concerns, but we are only talking about 30 or higher potentized versions of carbolic acid. So we will only be impacted by the energy of the carbolic acid. There is no risk of poisoning using the specified homeopathic dose. Give the remedy as needed for large responses to mosquito bites or other insect bites. Give the remedy every 10 minutes for an allergic response. But remember that carbolic acid, if you or your children get huge welts from mosquito bites or stings from other insects. It is also useful for those who are allergic to shellfish or bee sting. You should still follow your doctor's instructions and have an EpiPen available if you have an anaphylactic reaction to shellfish or bee stings. And as always, if your doctor has recommended something different, follow his or her instructions. But also remember, anyone who has an anaphylactic response has a first one when they don't have any doctor's instruction. This remedy as soon as you are aware of the insect bites or allergic response. Don't wait to see what happens or let it play out before giving it. One of the symptoms is that urticaria, hive covering the whole body, as well as vesicles or blisters on the entire body too, but especially on the hand. And unlike apis and rust talk, which we compared earlier, this remedy does not have symptoms related to being better or worse from hot or cold application. This is one of those remedies to have on hand if you hope to save someone's life one day. In fact, we have discussed many ways to save a life today. I hope you will take action and have those remedies on hand and know when to use them. I hope you'll download the short training course at www.toomuchsun.net. Well, there are remedies to save a life in that course. Thank you for spending this time with us on Holistic Health Guide. Be sure to look in the show notes for links to those blog posts. And if you want to save your summer or save your life, be sure to go to www.toomuchsun.net. This is Kathryn Berg. See you next time. Stay healthy and happy.